I am so happy with this outcome. I want to eat my makeup. I want to eat it if I could. But I don't want to be long. I'm just here to welcome you guys. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you are a beginner, don't forget to grab your beauty blender, your tools, your makeup, and go along with me. If you have any friends or family members who are also trying to level up their makeup game in 2024, don't forget to share this video with them, and don't forget to save it for yourself or download the video. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. All the products that I've used will be listed in the description box, so do check that out. Until next time. Okay, so I'm starting off with a primer and my skin is already moisturized. I'm using a hydrating primer because I have normal to dry skin, and because I'll be using powders and stuff, my skin can get quite dry, so I just want my base to be well moisturized. If you have oily skin, then perhaps use a mattifying primer. Okay, now moving on to the brows. I am using brow soap to tame my eyebrows, and I just sprayed some water. I'm just rolling my spoolie brush around and I'm brushing that soap into my eyebrow hairs, and then I'm just setting it by rolling. I don't know how to explain that, but you see what I mean. And then I'm just gonna shape my eyebrow with my spoolie brush. Then I'm just gonna wipe the residue with my fingers. Going into filling my eyebrows, I'm using a flat brush and this brow product, which is from Essence. So I'm just basically filling in the gaps and extending my eyebrow using hair-like strokes. I'm then going to use my concealer to clean up my eyebrow. Once again, using a flat brush. Tools are very important. So when cleaning up your eyebrows, you need a flat brush. If you don't have any, and if you're using the LA Girl Pro Concealer, I would just use my fingers to press the applicator, just to shape it into a flat brush. It's going to give you a whole lot more control than if you just used it as is. Also, the type of concealer I'm using is one that is, I would say this is one shade, okay, maybe 2 shades lighter than my actual skin tone. So this is not the lightest concealer I'll be applying today. This is the more natural concealer, and that's the one you want to use when shaping the bottom part of your eyebrows. Now that I'm done, I'm using a clean brush to blend that concealer into my skin. If you don't have a brush, you can use your beauty blender. Just be careful not to erase your brow product. Because I have an uneven skin tone, I'm using color corrector before foundation around my dark areas. I'm using an orange one because of my skin tone, but be sure to do your research to see what color you should be using. Now I'm using a damp, not wet beauty blender, and I'm going to reserve each side for a specific makeup step or application. You don't want to just use a random side on any application, otherwise your makeup will look messy. So I'm using the one side to blend out my color corrector. Now applying my foundation, I actually decided to use a brush on one side and a beauty blender on the other side, just in case you're wondering if it does make a difference. In my opinion, I think using a brush gives you a more fuller coverage, but a beauty blender gives you a more natural finish. And the technique I'm using is just pressing the product in. I'm not swiping it, I'm literally just pressing in, excuse me, the product into my skin. Just be extra careful when you blend your foundation around your eyebrows. Be sure not to touch them because you don't want to blur them out. So I'm just going back to that concealer brush I used to clean up my eyebrows, wiping off the concealer because I don't want any transfer. And I'm just going to dip that into my foundation. So I'm just going to carve out my eyebrows as I did before. Okay, now that I'm done with my foundation, I am going to move on to concealer. As you can see, the foundation literally made me one skin tone, which is just not realistic. So I'm going to bring back the dimension and the beautiful shades by using concealer and contour, but we'll get to that later on. So my concealer is about 2 shades lighter than my actual skin tone, and it's still of a warm undertone. So be sure to buy complexion products, so that's concealers, foundations, contours that are within your skin's undertone. Otherwise, it's gonna be a mess. You are more than welcome to use the same concealer that you did around your face, but I like a bright under eye, so I used a lighter concealer, still of a warm undertone, and you want to let that sit for like a minute. And I just used a fan because I just wanted to fast track the process. I'm going to use the tip of my beauty blender to press that into my skin, and with regards to technique, I'm going to use that concealer around my nose and mouth to connect to the concealer at the edge of my eye and eyebrow, and this is going to give me that lifted effect, almost like Botox but with no surgery. When you blend out your concealer, particularly this area, you never want to drag it underneath your cheekbone. You always want to place it on top of your cheekbone and then connect it into your hairline. So when I blend out the tight areas of my face, I just squeeze my beauty blender, and that really enables me to get into those tight areas. Now that you're done blending out your darkest concealer, use the residue on your beauty blender to redefine those cheekbones. Note the technique I'm using when blending out the inner concealer. So I have placed it onto my nose and I dragged it down my nose. And what that is doing is creating a nose contour naturally. So don't be afraid to also blend the concealer as close to your lash line as possible, because that's what's going to give you that flawless under eye as well. So I'm using the foundation side of my beauty blender to blend out any lines of demarcation caused by my concealer. So the goal here is to have that seamless blend between the concealers and my foundation. Now this is a trick I recently learned. If you want a flawless under eye, you must apply pressed powder first before your setting powder. So blend out that concealer before you set it, and then with your puff powder, if you don't have, it's fine, just use your beauty blender, press that product into your skin. And I'm not sure if you guys noticed, but I tapped off the excess. Be sure to look up when you blend out your under eye concealer and when you set it, because that's really going to help with the minimization of your creasing. So now I'll be setting my concealer. This is every area where I have applied concealer, I am setting with a setting powder. Be sure to tap off the excess, that was a lot, at the back of your hand. You don't want to use too much here because it's going to give you flashback, and I'm not trying to go for that. So as with the pressed powder, the technique I'm using here is to press the product into my skin. So the difference between that pressed powder that I first applied and the setting powder is that a pressed powder helps to give you that flawless, smooth finish, whilst a setting powder helps with the longevity of your makeup. So everywhere you applied concealer, you want to set with a setting powder. So I'm just using the excess from the back of my hand to set my mouth, my lip, my nose, my forehead, and I like using the excess as well to chisel out my cheekbones. Now for contour, I am using a foundation stick which is about 3 to 2 shades darker than my actual skin tone. You're more than welcome to use a concealer shade that is around 2 to 3 shades darker. So the placement is on my cheekbone, not below, not above, on my cheekbone and around my hairline. The blending technique with contour is that when you're working on your cheekbones, you don't want to move the product. You want to blend the product into your cheekbone. And when you get to your hairline, you want to blend into your hairline. And now to set that contour cream, I'm using an angled brush and I'm dipping that into my pressed powder, which is the same shade as my contour cream. So basically you want to set your cream products with a powder. However, let me be honest, if you don't have this powder, it's okay, it's not a chain smash, you can still have a beautiful look without it. However, it does make a difference, it does elevate your makeup look. Yeah, so I applied too much product over there, so I'm just using my beauty blender to blend everything out. This is why I love a beauty blender. It's so versatile and it just blends your makeup so effortlessly. I also like applying the contour product or the bronzer on my jawline and then blend it into my neck. And what that does is just chisel out. You can't tell me you don't see that. You can't tell me you don't see what that's doing to my jawline. You know what? I feel like I lost that chisel underneath my cheekbone to that contour powder. So I'm just going to use the excess powder from the back of my hand to redefine it. So I just want to define my nose. I dipped into that contour powder using a small angled brush. And you don't want to use a lot of product for this step. I'm just going to run that through the side of my nose and I'm going to drag that up into my eyebrow and then just blend that out. I'm going to apply some on the tip of my nose and at the top of the tip of my nose. I'm a blush girl, so of course I want to apply blush. If you don't have blush, I would suggest using an eyeshadow shade that could give you that blush look, but you can skip this process if you want to. The technique is to apply some on your cheek and then drag it up to your eye. Now for highlighter, I'm using a small brush and I'm just going to swirl that into my highlighter, tap off the excess and apply some at the tip of my nose and the top of my bridge. I'm also going to apply some on my cheeks, and the technique I'm using here is a circular motion and then I just flick the end. I'd say you place this between your blush and your concealer. And now to set everything in place, I'm using my setting spray, and once I'm done, I'm going to use my beauty blender, the foundation side of it, and press everything in, gently so. I always prefer removing any product from my lips before I work on them. So I'm just using my lip liner. If you don't have one, just use your contour stick. Just find a small brush and just outline your lips using your contour. Do not skip this step. You want to blend out your lip liner once you're done. If you don't have a brush, you could just use your finger. And now I'm applying a light shade at the center of my lips, rubbing that in. You know what, I wanted to have a more of a pouty look, so I'm just shading in the corners of my lips. And I'm applying a peachy nude lip gloss, and I went in with my clear lip gloss to finish the look. And we're done. Thank you guys for watching. See you next time.